Hi, everybody. How you guys doing? My name is Kyle, and this is the Conservative Take. And sorry about that. I changed to an Ethernet cable, and it kicked me out, so I had to redo it. So I'm back. So this particular update is going to be, if you've been with me this week or last week, quick update of the same format that I've done before with the election and where we stand. Tomorrow, obviously, is election day, and I want to bring everybody up to speed of the weekend and what happened. Last time we talked, it was on the basically it was the day before Halloween, and I was off this weekend. Hope everybody's weekend was good. So let's run through this again. I won't be able to take all the questions at all, probably. I have a screen print of the last questions that were done last time. There weren't many questions, so I'm not going to address any of those. But if you have questions, by all means, shoot those in the comments here, and I will try and get those addressed as quickly as possible. Some housekeeping stuff going on. I'm going to be doing a video tonight on, I'll give you how the Democrats plan to cheat and what I think they're going to try and do and how it won't work. And I saw something interesting in the Electoral College, so I think that's what they're trying to do. I'll talk about that. And then tomorrow I'm going to do a final prediction of what I think the Electoral College map will look. And we'll do that tomorrow. And also, I'll be doing some live streaming tomorrow. I'm not sure. I'm going to have a private stream going on with some people that don't want to be on camera. And I'm going to have a public stream on the same camera, and don't know how I'm going to do that quite yet. It may or may not be live, but it will definitely be posted at some point. So whether or not I do that, there will be intermediate updates going on during the night. So thank you, Ray, for doing that. I really appreciate it. Thank you for helping us out here. There's a lot of work here, guys, and I'll be glad when this is all over. Be glad to be able to finally kick back and actually enjoy, life outside of politics. So I'm gonna jump in this discussion here. I'm gonna do my format as well, and I'm gonna set it up, and I'm gonna get started right now. So let me go ahead and pull this up. Let me see if I got it here. Give me a second, guys. It's not showing up. Hold on. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. Let's jump right in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do typically, I'm going to do the election update as normal, and I'm going to click in, and I'm going to actually talk about how you can actually access the PDF on this. So I downloaded the PDF on this. You can check it out because the actual diagrams that you see online on your cell phone or whatever won't be as clear. So if you go to the actual website, theconservativetake.com, go to login. If you haven't done that, you can subscribe to the mailing list. It's free. And there you can actually pull it down PDF right now. The Discord server will be there a little bit later this afternoon. Not quite there yet. But it's also there. If you're a member of the channel, you can get it right there as well. Go to the community tab, and it's posted right there as well, as usual. All right, so let's kick in here. We're going to talk about the latest news. We'll talk about the battleground states as usual, and cover some final Electoral College maps from a couple of different outlets. And so the latest news right now as it looks. So we have right now Democracy Institute, which we're going to talk about them a lot in this particular live stream, has the national presidential approval at 52%. Gravis has the national approval at 52%. Rasmussen has it as of today. That's just a little bit older, 52%. It's up from what it was Friday. The Hill, 49, Gallup, 46, and Fox News, 46. The average is 49.3, right in the wheelhouse of reelection. It's higher than Obama was when he was going for reelection in 2012. And in terms of Florida, there is an interesting thing going on in Florida. This past weekend, the Democrats were able to get beyond that 96,000 threshold. They got some votes that came in from voice by mail, but all in all, their souls to the poll was not very, very strong. But they did end up ahead of where they were in 2016 by about 8,000 votes. But when you consider that the population grew by about a million over the past 4 years, that's a minor difference, and the Republicans should be able to make that up pretty quickly. It's freaked a lot of people out who've been looking at this, but in the grand scheme of things, 8,000 votes is not a big deal when you're talking about a million growth, not to mention the number of super voters that Republicans have in the tank ready to go. They have a ton. So making up that difference won't be a problem at all. So Florida is still, in my opinion, a safe column for Trump, even though some people are freaked out and said it's a lean Trump. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a pretty much as it was last time. He'll probably win by 2 points, maybe 3, depending on how strong the Hispanic turnout is, depending on how weak the Biden turnout is, considering that a lot of the colleges are shut down and the black vote is not as strong as it was for Biden and all of that, also in terms of enthusiasm. So I'm not worried about Florida at all. Okay, so let's go to this. Here is the latest news from Rasmussen. Actually has Biden up 1 in Rasmussen, which I am actually thrilled by, because as of 2 weeks ago, it was down 12, and that was disastrous. I said all along, I didn't mention this publicly, but I would say as long as Trump is within -4 of Rasmussen, means mathematically he's got a shot of winning the Electoral College. In fact, this has him ahead of what he was 2016. They actually had Hillary Clinton winning by 2 points. She won the popular vote by 2 points. So here, Rasmussen, instead of predicting Trump winning the popular vote by 1 point, as it had a couple days ago, it has him losing the popular vote by one point. But then you have Democracy Institute having him up 1, and this particular group really sent shockwaves over the weekend, because these are the guys that predicted the Brexit in England when no one thought that was going to go away from the European Union. They predicted that, and they have some interesting dynamics in that particular poll across the border battleground states. It's incredible. And so they had them +1, and IDP Tip has Biden plus 3.2, which again, when you're dealing with California, and the coast, how the popular vote is going to swing in the Democrats' way, it doesn't matter when you're dealing with the Electoral College. As long as it's within 5 points of that, it's mathematically attainable. In fact, you have to remember, Trump won the Electoral College by a bunch. He won 304, I believe, and that was at -2 the popular vote, which means Rasmussen's predicting that Trump's going to do better than 2016. So that's all that's saying. So just because he's up 1 or -1 doesn't mean much when you talk about the Electoral College, especially dealing with states like California and New York and Illinois that ran those numbers way up, and it basically skews numbers from a bigger scale. So that is what's going on with the polling right now. Let's go on. So right now, Trump's campaign stops today. I found this pretty interesting. Where the campaigns go is where they feel they need to be in terms of shoring up votes, and also where they're spending the money. So this is where Trump feels that he needs to be. Notice, none of these are states that he's supposed to have in the bag. There's no Florida in here. There's no Ohio in here, because those are states that they're comfortable with. He's going to North Carolina in the Fort Bragg area, where he was lagging behind in some areas in the suburbs. To shore that up, he's up a couple points in North Carolina in several polls. Scranton, Pennsylvania, I find it's hilarious, because that's so-called Biden's home territory. I don't think it really is his home territory, but well, whatever. But I think he's going there just to, in some ways, it's for optics, but it's also for the people in Scranton who want a choice, and they're not satisfied with lack of representation of Biden over the years. Traverse City, Michigan, he's going to go there twice today, and Kenosha, Wisconsin, which I feel is a brilliant move to go because Wisconsin, I'm going to mention in a video a little bit later, that to me, Wisconsin is the key to all of this, especially in calling this election early. Wisconsin is going to be, to me, the key, and that comes down to the SCOTUS decisions that came out. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think Wisconsin is very, very important for an early call for President Trump today or tomorrow. And Grand Rapids, Michigan, he'll wrap it up at 10:30 in the cold p.m. So it's a busy schedule. He's going on 5 trips. He's crossing the Rust Belt, and it should be a really, really big turnout in all those areas. If you saw the line that he had formed in Hickory, North Carolina, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, it had to have been, I don't know, you can't tell from the lens on the camera, but it looked like a mile long. And there was one guy on a crutch with one, walking, I'm just like, come on. This is Hickory, North Carolina, in a very rural area, and he just packed it out. The crowd at 58,000 in Pennsylvania this past weekend was also amazing. That's the size of an RFK football game for the Redskins back in the 80s. I think RFK only held like 55,000. This was that size of a crowd. It was incredible. And it was in the middle of nowhere. And he had a fracking well out there as well. And he really had the crowd going. And that's the kind of momentum that Trump needs to build to win some of these rural areas where he's going to have to run those numbers up to offset, the urban areas like Philadelphia and so forth, which I think he will do. All right, so let's go on. So here we have some more latest news here. This is basically dealing with this is diverse polls. This one here is the Breaking Democracy Institute poll. This came out this past weekend. Has Trump up 1, has him up 48-47. His approval, we mentioned this already with them, was 52%. Has him +4 in all 6 battleground states. Says here the significantly, and by the way, again, I got to reiterate, these are the guys that predicted Brexit when no one else did. Says here significantly, the president has, according to the latest findings, maintained a 4-point lead of 49% to 45% in the key swing states, including Florida, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. All right, keep going here. Also in this poll, it has them winning an electoral college of 326 to 12. Says it means that Trump is on course to easily win the electoral college by 326 to 212 votes against his Democrat rival. Here's another key metric here. Black support, almost 4 in 10 Black voters approve of his presidency, and 21% are prepared to vote for him. This is Democracy Institute. This number here, 21%, is the exact same number that Rasmussen has today. Actually, it's actually a little bit lower. Rasmussen they asked likely voters, Black voters, if you could vote for President Trump today, would you? 26% of those Black respondents said yes. That is over 3 times more than Trump got in 2016. It's actually 3.25, actually, to be exact. 3 times the support, and that kind of number alone can win the popular vote. And I think that's kind of why Rasmussen's kind of hedging on the +1, and we'll see. But also, you have the Hispanic vote. You also have the drop off or vote with Biden, potentially with just lack of enthusiasm and people being scared out of their mind over COVID. So a lot of things are working to our favor on this particular metric here. To keep going. Also, the Biden scandal. They asked them this. Again, this is on Halloween. They asked this question. Ask who they thought was telling the truth about the Biden family allegations. 57% chose businessman and former Biden associate Terry Bobulinski. Meanwhile, they said that 52% agreed that Mr. Biden is a corrupt politician, and 21% less likely to vote for him. Now, obviously, this could be a sample of all Republicans, which I doubt it, because all Republicans would have said it'd been 99%, right? So this had to have been independents who were asked this, or Democrats who it wasn't Republicans, because if it was Republicans, it would have been a 99%. You know what I mean? So we'll see about that, but that is not a good thing for for Vice President Biden at all. All right, so let's go on. This here is Democracy Institute again, state polls. This is, I'm going to cover this again as we get to Minnesota, but I wanted to put this up there. Has him up 4 in Florida. This is from November 1st, by the way. Minnesota up 2, and New Hampshire up 4, which I find fascinating. the New Hampshire and the Minnesota could very well be outliers. Very well. But again, it could be totally accurate. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is that it's in the wheelhouse, and there is a chance that he can actually pick those two states up. And especially Minnesota would be an amazing deal. I think that's 10 electoral college. And that could really help if he could get that somehow close enough that they can maybe even call it. I doubt they would, but that would add more legitimacy to the president and his agenda and how he's reaching out to the rural area in the Rust Belt who felt like they are totally been disenfranchised by the Obama administration and who felt that the Trump administration has done a good enough job to put him back in the office. So what we're going to have here is a lot of people who are voters for the first time, people who set out in 2016. They may have thought about voting for Trump, but they couldn't pull the lever. But now they saw after 4 years what he can do, are absolutely going to vote for him because they are voting for two reasons. And I read this somewhere else where the issue that they're most concerned about is the economy and their wallets. Okay. They're worried about their best interest in terms of feeding their families and their jobs. The fracking comment that Biden did was not very smart. And the second issue is lockdowns, especially suburban women who may be not big on Trump's demeanor and his tone in his tweeting, but they don't like the lockdowns at all. And so they are going to vote for Trump simply because they're tired of their kids being home and out of school and it infuriates them. And so I would also imagine that also security in terms of people coming down and riding and coming to the suburbs also is an indication too that they may want to vote for Trump because there's a huge gun ownership tick up with women. And many women, most gun owners tend to lean conservative, tend to vote Republican. So that is those numbers there from the Democracy Institute. And we have here in Minnesota that same poll again, but here I want to reference it directly. 2 points for Trump over Biden in Minnesota. And so here in Arizona, these are the latest Trafalgar Group polls. This is 49% essentially for Trump over Biden. And that's Arizona. And Arizona seems to be doing very, very well. Maricopa County, Trump is just crushing it there. And with all indications that Arizona is going to be a hold for Trump. And the key strategy for Trump is simply this. And I said this on the channel several times. He needs 2 of 3 states. He needs Arizona, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania. If he gets any 2 of those states, he wins. It also goes into the notion of core plus 1, the core being Arizona, it being Florida, and it being North Carolina. He wins those 3, Arizona, North Carolina, and Florida, and any one of the other states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, basically the old blue wall we mentioned back in 2016, Pennsylvania, Michigan, those guys. All right, so that's really the easiest path for victory for Trump. And by the way, let me just say this off the cuff. Have you guys noticed that whenever an incumbent president is running, or any incumbent in any particular branch or level of politics, the incumbent's job is to hold what he or she has, and then the defendant or the opponent has to come in and actually try to catch up and then flip those people's seats or those counties, those precincts or whatever. You've never seen at all where they would say, well, Trump has this and Biden needs to flip this, and flip that. It's never that. They've treated Biden as the front runner from the very beginning. It's all about psychology. It's all about optics. It's all to get you thinking that Trump's been behind the whole time. He has not been behind the whole time. It's what the media wants you to think because they want you to be discouraged. They want to thump up these big polls that they're putting money into. That is, and then as it gets closer to the election, they want to say, well, this isn't going to be right. We're going to lose our credibility. So let's get that a little closer. Get the Democrats scared because they think, oh, we can't just take this for granted. They go to the polls. And then finally, the last week, they finally come together real tightly so they can herd together so they can say, hey, well, we weren't that far off. We were there all along. No, you were not. You treated President Trump as a challenger the whole way. Trump's path to election is easy because all he has to do is win what he won before. Biden has to flip seats, not Trump. If Trump gets the states he won before, he won. In fact, if Trump gets a little less than the states that he won before, he won. And that's what you don't ever hear. And it really irritates me that the people are allowed to get away with this in the media and act like they are somehow this, we're so impartial. No, you're not. You are fake news, and you really are trying to affect people. And I think people, especially what happened last time in 2016, understand that we have to show up. You have to show up. CBS reported this weekend that, oh, by the way, guys, if Trump's people show up, he could win. You think? And now the media is now coming to the conclusion that, you know what, Trump could win this if his people showed up. Maybe it was that mile and a half line in Hickory, or maybe it was that 60,000 people plus in Pennsylvania in some town. I think it was Butler, Pennsylvania, that showed up in the middle of the night to clue them in. Oh, you know what? Maybe they could show up. Or maybe it was the fact that the early voting in like Miami-Dade County favors Republicans, or that in, I'm going to show you another poll here. I don't have the actual county. I remember it. We'll get to it in a second, where Trump is actually leading, or he's like 0.4 points behind in the county where Detroit is. I think that's called, what is that? I'll see it later on. We'll get to Michigan. We'll get there. But maybe it's these kind of things that the media has realized, oh, well, maybe he could win. And that's why they want to suppress our vote. So if you show up, he'll win. If we don't, he'll lose. But I think as long as if the president gets 100% of his turnout in 2016, he will win a closer race. If he gets 120 or better percent, he will win about the same level. If he gets higher than that, he'll win at a massive landslide. And they're predicting that Trump's secret or his hidden vote, or the monster vote, or the silent majority, that group could be as high as 40 to 50% higher than it was last time. And if that's the case, and all the super voters come out, all the 4x4 voters, the ones that voted every 4 years and every 4 elections come out, this could be a special event. But again, this is nothing but theoretical theory. If you don't come out and vote, it won't happen. It doesn't happen by magic. And then you factor in the cheat factor that the Democrats are trying to do, which I'm going to mention a little bit later this afternoon. You have to do a little bit more just to win. So that's where I'm at right now. And I'm getting a little fired up here, but that's kind of where we're at. So that's Arizona. Let's go into Wisconsin. I don't have much on Wisconsin. There was a poll that came out. It was this was 538 put it out, but it's actually Atlas Polling has Trump up about 1 point in Wisconsin. Wisconsin seems to be pretty close across the board. Black vote is 17% for Trump, and that would pretty much negate Green Bay area. So that would be his favor. And Hispanic vote at 41%. So again, if Trump can pull these numbers out, he'll win in Wisconsin within 2 or 3 points, maybe just about as much as he won last time, maybe more. All right, let's go Pennsylvania. This is up from last time. This is from the past hour. This is Trafalgar Group again, 47.8%. He's increasing that lead there in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, I'm going to talk about that in my video later on about how they're going to try and cheat us. But it won't work, though. I don't think it won't work because, well, they won't work. Okay. And again, Pennsylvania has here that voter registration. It's very interesting here. The voter registration in Pennsylvania, even though he won it by 44,000 in 2016, the Republicans have closed the gap between Democrat voter registration by about 229,000, and that is significant. The fact is, Pennsylvania has become more Republican since 2016, yet he still won that state by 44. I can't read that. Yeah, he won by what, 44,000? I think he won by more than that. Well, yeah. So right now they're projecting potentially, if everything pans out, that he could win the state by 314,000 based on these. If you scale those numbers out and get the same results, that difference in registration could end up being almost 4 times more than what was in 2016. So that would be amazing. And that would actually offset anything in Philly where they're trying to count the votes after the fact, where they're going to actually, on the day of the election on 11/3, based on Supreme Court decision, or basically their negotiated agreement between the Democrats and the Republicans, decided that when the election ends, they'll count those votes, and any votes that come in past the fact will be voted in a separate bin, segregated out, so they won't be mixed in with the main body, which I think is okay, I guess. But that second tier, that segregated voting section, if it's less than 314, then there's no way to even, there's no point in even, talking about it, because they had to all be for Biden. And even then they would still lose because it'd be less than the number. So, and that's what lawyers can be looking at, because the Trump team has an army of lawyers in Philly look at this kind of stuff. So Trump is a pretty savvy guy in New York. He had political enemies on him all the time, so he was always defensive. He never used email, and he never. He was very he was suspicious about anything like that, and in fact, even told the RNC to get a VPN and check your security and make sure you have firewalls because he was afraid that the RNC would get hacked. They did that job. The DNC did not do that job. And then guess what? Podesta, all those emails got hacked and everything happened there. So Trump is a very precautionary person. He doesn't trust a lot of people. So I'm pretty sure his team is on top of this. And so, and with Amy Coney Barrett now on the Supreme Court, that only helps us if it ever has to go to that level. All right, so here we go. Oakland County, yes. So Michigan, check this out. I saw this and my eyes popped out. I said, okay, it says Oakland County. This is Oakland County. This is Michigan. This is the Pontiac, Michigan, Detroit. Not your typical RNC Republican, stronghold, not by a long mile. But look at this. The early voting results are Democrat at 43.5%, Republicans at 43.1%, 0.4% difference. So if the Republicans just turn out at a 0.5% rate higher than Democrats tomorrow, they'll win Detroit. I'll stop there. Do the math on that one. All right. Here we go with Michigan again. A Trafficker Group has it at 48.3 and Biden at 45.8 there as well. All right. So Michigan, I think, is going to be pretty solid. I seriously think so, primarily because we just saw before. All right, North Carolina. So Trump's plus 4.4 from insider advantage there. African-American vote is at 24% for Trump. And that's critical because North Carolina's got about 30% Black population. And they're not coming out strongly for Biden. And they're coming out stronger for Trump. Do the math there. All right. Also, this is a Trafficker Group as well. And by the way, I keep mentioning these guys because they were the most accurate battleground poll in 2016. Has him up roughly 2.1 in North Carolina as well. So that's a good showing there. So this is probably one of the cores that Trump needs to get, along with Arizona, okay, and Florida. Those three, he's got to get those three to have an easy path to victory. All right. Here's Florida. He's up 49.6 to 46.9 in Florida. Like I said before, it tightened up a little bit this weekend because of those vote by mail votes that came in. About 96,000 of those came in. Plus, they had the souls to the polls come in. But even with all that, the Republicans were still able to will that down to basically 8,000 votes. And again, that was expanded across the fact that the state grew by 1 million votes. So it's basically dead even. The Republicans are exactly where they need to be in Florida. In Ohio, this came out again, and they're up 5, even 6 in Ohio. Ohio is going to be about as deadlock as you're going to get. They're going to call Florida. They're going to call Ohio pretty early. Hopefully, they can call Florida early, but I doubt they would do that. But Ohio looks very strong. All right, so here we go. The final maps to wrap this call up here. We have this just came out. 2 of these. One of them is the Senate final map for states poll. Essentially has the Republicans winning the Senate 55-45, which I don't. This is basically taking out all toss-ups. So no toss-ups. If it's a lean Republican, he just gave it to the Republican senator. So here, this is basically going to be our ceiling: 55% or 55 of the 55% essentially, and that is pretty much what they're saying in terms of that. I would say our floor is probably going to be 51. So we probably shouldn't do any worse than 51 based on what we're seeing on the ground. And so if this happens, 55, that just means Trump just crushed it. And this also plays in with their national poll, where here they made some movement here. They moved Florida down to tilt Trump, and they moved Virginia from likely Dem to lean Dem, which is very important because Virginia is actually been pretty red these past few years, cycles, and it moved Minnesota out of toss up into lean Democrat. So, but again, it comes down to turnout. So here it projects a 312 to 226, which is fairly close to what I had before. I never considered Minnesota as a possible one for us to get this time, maybe next time. But again, if it's a wave election and people break hard to Trump, as we're seeing, by the way, independents, by the way, are moving to Trump. Women, evangelicals, you name it, are moving Trump if they're on the fence. And a lot of that has to do with people don't want their taxes raised. People they want security. They don't want to see their monuments destroyed. They want to feel like their country is going in the right direction. And the Democrats, all they've done in the past 4 years is obstruct, destroy, and lie, in my opinion. It's not my opinion. I mean, you can go look for yourself. So that is that. And my last slide today is going to be this one. I mentioned this one before. This is essentially the map with toss-ups. Again, Arizona no longer, I feel, is a toss-up. But just to rehash, it's really going to come down to Trump getting the core of Arizona, Florida, and Wisconsin. And I'll explain why Wisconsin is so important at another time. But oops, I won't do that. I'm going to do this. Let's do this. So with that, that's what I have. And let me see if I have any questions here. I have a few minutes here to talk to some here. Let me see. By the way, thank you, Ray, for your contribution. I really like that. Pedro, you finally got a day off. That's awesome. Do you think they'll hire Mayor Cheat and Shadow Incorporated to win in November? I don't know who those people are. Well, they'll put it this way: they'll do whatever they can do. Rick says he hates living in the Northeast. Blue states suck. I lived in the blue state for a long time, originally from Maryland. So, but at the time I was a Democrat, so I didn't. Yeah, it's like, to me, I guess it was fine. But moving back there, going back to Maryland isn't fun. In large media are propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. They don't even try to hide it anymore. They don't. You know what, Douglas? This is all out war. They've taken the gloves off and they basically said, you know what? We got to win this at all costs. And we're just going to remove all pretense, right? And we're just going to show how we feel and hope for the best. Yes, Virginia is definitely going blue for sure. It is. But here's the thing about Virginia. If we find that Virginia at 10 a.m. is still not called yet, and particularly if Florida has been called, well, then we can just go to bed early. So I don't think they're going to call Virginia early. We'll see. But Virginia has a lot of demographics that really hurt Biden. Again, people are really terrified of COVID. The colleges are shut down. The Black enthusiasm is down. And when they are enthusiastic, they're voting for Trump. And all those things just don't play well. And so I don't see them calling Richmond really quickly. In fact, I think those Fairfax and Northern Virginia counties come in late anyway. Thank you, Paul Revere. Appreciate that. I'll not be surprised if California turns red. I think California will turn red. I think they'll turn red in about 8 years. I think we'll start seeing California go likely. That's if Trump wins, because if Trump I'm not going to entertain that comment. But if the Democrats had their way, they would let sanctuary cities run rampant. They would let illegal immigration come rampant. They would get that base up so large and give them so much social set asides that they're going to be enslaved to the government, which is what they want. Ultimately, the Democrats want you enslaved to themselves so they can overrule you and legislate on your behalf, because they are the almighty monarchy. You're the serfs, and they'll tell you what to do because they know better. That's basically Democrat policies and liberal policies in a nutshell. Totally. Buttigieg. Very well. I think yes, probably so. He's been pretty quiet, hasn't he? There's only one county in Virginia. Don't be sure about that. Yeah, one county. Yeah, well, I'm not predicting that they're gonna. Well, who knows? I mean, if you're saying love for the USA that Virginia can go red, I'm not disagreeing with you. If they get it within like 2 or 3, anything is possible. Because again, I've seen wave elections before. I saw the wave election of 1994 with Newt Gingrich and the contract with America. That came out of nowhere. That was a floodgate. And if everyone votes the way they need to vote, this whole thing's going to turn red. You'll see New Mexico turn red. You'll see Nevada turn red. You'll see Minnesota turn red. You'll see New Hampshire. We can talk about that. They go red. Heck, you may even see Oregon go red. If everyone breaks the right way, like they did in 84 and 80 and 72, that's what's going to happen. But I just don't have confidence that people are watching the right stuff on TV. I think they're watching CNN, they're watching MSNBC, they're watching CBS, they're watching NBC, they're watching ABC, and they're getting the wrong news and they're acting on the wrong decisions. So I'll do a couple more questions here. I have to be. I don't want to get too excited. So, but I do feel you on that 100% that the red wave is coming. How big the wave is going to be, it's going to depend on how fed up people are and how smart they've been over the past 4 years and how astute they've been, and how the key demographic, white people without college, if those people show up, that's the biggest untapped market for Trump. If they come out en masse, it's game out. It's game over. 100% game over. And Trump I can't predict how people are going to vote. And so I got to hedge against that. So that's all I'm doing. Just being a little bit cautious in my statements here. So I have more credibility going forward. All right, last question I'm going to take here is this: yes, Gavin Newsom is a dictator and out of control, and I agree. The same one in Michigan, that governor. California is a pilot for Socialist Communist Party. We're sick of it here in California. And did you not see what's going on with the Thanksgiving rules? The Thanksgiving rules are atrocious. And the last thing I'll say is this: is the governor of, I believe this was Don Trump Jr. tweeted this out, that she's asking, the governor of Michigan is asking restaurateurs to take the names of their guests or risk fines. So you go into a restaurant, you get your family, maybe it's your 20-year anniversary, and your kids, your family are there celebrating. Your parents and your spouse have a great evening. You got to go into a restaurant, and they're taking your names down because they want to make sure that you are who you say you are and that you've been whatever they want the information for. It's utterly ridiculous. It's violating all kinds of civil rights, human rights, and that's why they want to stack the courts, because the only way that can be approved is if it goes through like the 9th district and then to a liberal Supreme Court. And that's ultimately what they want. They want that kind of control. And the only way to do that is to restrict our human rights, our civil rights, so they can do it themselves. So I don't want to leave this on a bad note, but that's not a bad note, is it? Not at all. So, all right. So that's what I have for this update for the 2nd of November. The key thing is get out to vote, and also have everyone that get out to vote. At least let them know what they're voting for and what's at stake. It's a very big election. It's probably the biggest election we've had in this country since 1864. Go look that one up, by the way. All right. So thanks again for the contribution there. I really appreciate that, Ray. That's awesome. We can't do this stuff without you guys. And I'll give more information about the live streams, and hopefully look out for that video later on this afternoon. I'll be setting up for that thing tomorrow, so I may be a little bit behind on my updates. But other than that, I think we're done here, and I will, let me see if I get his here. Yep. And I will check you guys out next time.